What's going on, guys? Bankrover Games here, more Ratchet Deadlocked using the PCSX2 emulator. And to cap off the series, I'm going to do a video showcasing all the weapons that are available to you in the game, just because I didn't get to show them all off during the main walkthrough of the game. And I'll also have a section at the end of the video showcasing all the weapon mods as well. I will be showcasing the weapons on the planets that you unlock them, so you guys can sort of see how they perform on the planets you get them. I'll also give a few thoughts to what I think of the weapons and how good I think they are, and whether or not I think you should buy them. But thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let's get to it. So the first weapon we have is the Dual Vipers, which then get turned to the Dual Raptors, and you get given these at the start of the game for free. And when you level them up to level 10, the special effect is that the bullets bounce around and head towards other enemies. They're a very good weapon. You can use them all throughout the game. They're very, very powerful, got a really high rate of fire and do a decent amount of damage as well. And as you upgrade them, their ammo capacity becomes very big, and yeah, very fun weapons to use. And something to point out is when you max out weapons to level 99 in New Game Plus, the sort of weapon effects do become rainbow coloured. You can see bullets cycling through the colours there. Very fun weapons, satisfying to use, very good with the shock mod. You can see they also did quite a lot of damage when they're upgraded as well. But yeah, on to the next weapon. So the next weapon we also get given to us at the start of the game for free, and that is the Magma Cannon, which then turns to the Vulcan Cannon when you level it up to level 10. And the special effect that you unlock at level 10 is that rather than firing like a shotgun, it fires out like homing tendrils. You'll sort of see what I mean. Very fun, very cool, and really good at crowd control, and very useful against the melee type enemies all throughout the game. At the start of the game, it doesn't have the most amount of ammo, but it does do a pretty decent amount of damage. And it's really good against the zombie robots you fight against on the first planet you unlock. It's got a really long range as well. I'll see if I can show that off at some point, but that's only when it's fully upgraded. But what's supposed to be a shotgun, yeah, it's got a really long range. The range on it isn't so good as you're upgrading it, but as soon as you get that level 10 upgrade, it solves that problem. So yeah, really fun weapon. I think the level 10 upgrade is absolutely awesome, and yeah, it makes it really fun to use. Also works really well with the freeze mod. But on to the next weapon. So the next weapon we have is the B6 Obliterator, which then turns to the B11 Vaporizer when you level it up to level 10. And this becomes available to you right at the start of the game as soon as you have access to the vendor. It's a very fun weapon. It's basically a grenade launcher. It does have very limited ammo pool though, and it's really good against doing damage to groups of enemies. It's the highest damaging weapon at the start of the game by quite a margin, but later on you won't necessarily use it against tougher enemies. It's more for sort of group control and crowd control. Really useful against some of the robot zombies that I said the Magma Cannon was good against, which we're going to see in a second. And the special effect of it when you level it up to level 10 is it basically has a massive blast radius.
Should have his own fitness machine, his own shoes, his own that burning barbecue.
And because of its limited ammo pool, I recommend using the Napalm Mod with it, and in that way it leaves down behind a damaging area of effect, which helps let the ammo go much further. And at the start of the game you can use it against the tougher enemies just because it does a lot more damage than your other weapons. Later on the sort of high damage potential falls off. It mainly falls back to being that sort of crowd control weapon. It can also be quite good for taking out swarms of melee enemies, like the guys with the razor arms, similar to the robot zombies, because it will destroy anything near where the bomb lands. Like I said, very fun weapon. On to the next one. So the next weapon we have access to is the Holoshield Launcher, which then changes to the Omnishield Launcher when you level it up to level 10. And this is basically just a much improved version of the Holoshield Glove from Ratchet & Clank 3. So you can tell it's not really a weapon, it's more of a gadget. And the upgrade that you get at level 10 is the same in Ratchet & Clank 3, where when enemies fire at it, it should shoot energy bolts back towards them, but it is much better than it was in that game. You can also stick mods on it, like the shock mod or something like that. So if enemies pass through it, they will take damage, which is quite handy. And it's based, the shield, as far as I'm aware, has unlimited health, and it just stays out for a fixed amount of time in comparison to Ratchet & Clank 3, so it's much better in that regard. I wouldn't necessarily recommend buying it just because there's always cover when you're going through the game. There's always something you can hide behind, and the game isn't too difficult, generally speaking, even if you play it on higher difficulties. See, it does do a little bit of damage to enemies when they go through it anyway. You can also fire through it. Your shots can go through it, which is very handy, and it's obviously a lot bigger than it was in Ratchet & Clank 3. But situations like this, where you need cover,
Have you ever wondered what's
in
the special sauce?
You know, the game provides some to you. And there's actually a couple of points throughout the game where Clank talks to you and tells you they recommend using the shield launcher, but I don't actually think it's required. It's nice how they brought back an item and improved it over the Ratchet & Clank 3 counterpart, but I still don't think it's necessarily worth buying. Not sure what that energy bolt was going towards. There's an enemy there stuck on the map. You see the barriers electrified anyway, without any mods being stuck to it. And you can see the barriers last a very long time. It's almost a minute when it's fully upgraded. So those 18 rounds go very, very far. The barriers also blink like that, flash red, to let you know they're running out, which again makes them much more useful than in Ratchet & Clank 3, because at least on the HD collection sometimes it's quite difficult to see when they're running out. Not much else to show or say about this one. But like I said, it was cool that they brought back an item from a previous game and improved it by quite a lot. But like I said, there's not much more to show or say about this item, this gadget, so let's go to the next one. So the next weapon we have available to us is the Hunter Mine Launcher, which then turns to the Stalker Mine Launcher when you level it up to level 10, and this becomes available on planet Sarathos, the next planet after Catacomb 4. And I'll probably recommend this over the B6 Obliterator just for the fact that it has a lot more ammo and when it's fully upgraded. And the special effect is that after the mines explode on an enemy, they then spawn another mine and explode again, and then I think they do that one more time as well, but we'll see in a second. Very fun weapon. It's got a much higher rate of fire than the B6 Obliterator, similar area of effect, and I think the damage it's not quite as good, but you do have more ammo as well. Very fun weapon, looks really, really cool, and the special effect, the level 10 special effect is really good as well. Works with a variety of mods. I recommend the Napalm Mod along with the Mini Bomb mod or the Shock mod. It does also look really cool with the Time Bomb mod as well.
How many times you want to do this?
You see it's got quite a big radius, and it does spawn sort of 3 mines in total, and at level 10 they're sort of like holographic. You can also just walk into enemies to blow the mines up and it doesn't do any damage to you, but obviously at level 10 I wouldn't recommend that because you do lose some of that effect of having multiple mines for the price of one.
Red zone, home game.
Sometimes if they can't fully attach to an enemy before detonating, they can take a little while to explode like that.
I think explosions are pretty.
Obviously it is a weapon that you have to sort of set up a little bit because there is that delay. When it's upgraded, you can basically just carpet bomb an area. Very, very cool, very fun weapon to use, and one that I'd definitely recommend buying. On to the next weapon. So the next weapon that becomes available to us on planet Kronos is the fusion rifle, which then changes to the antimatter rifle when you level it up to level 10. And the special effect at max level is that the sort of rounds can pierce enemies. It basically acts like a railgun, very similar to the other sniper rifle type weapons in previous Ratchet & Clank games up until this point. And yeah, very fun weapon. Hasn't got the most amount of ammo when you first get it, but it does do a lot of damage. And I did mention that the B6 Obliterator doesn't necessarily do the most amount of damage against single targets, but this can definitely sort of fix that and take down those tougher targets for you at range. It's very good with quite a few mods. I like the Shock mod for it. That way it can affect more than one target at a time, and you don't really need to worry about lining up your shots to pierce enemies. The Freeze mod can also be quite fun to use it as well, to sort of freeze enemies in place so you can aim at them better with it, or perhaps line up your shots if they don't just get taken out from your first shot.
Boss, when this is all over, I'd like to do it again.
It's basically exactly the same as the fusion rifle or pulse rifle from other Ratchet and Clank games. Go through the turret. See, it's very easy to run out of ammo with it though. When it is fully upgraded though, it does seem like the round has a massive hitbox, so you don't need to worry about lining up your shots too much. Also has basically unlimited range, I think. See, we took out the dropship there, even though we weren't really aiming anywhere near it. Like I said, the round seems to have a very large hitbox. I don't think it has an unlimited range on the piercing though. I think it can actually just go through a certain number of enemies, I think, from those things. I have accidentally triggered a glitch that happens when you aim in with this weapon, is your camera doesn't quite return to normal, and I do remember this being a bug on the PS2 because it always used to annoy whoever I was playing with. And if they were using it, they wouldn't be able to see anything because they had half the screen and then it was zoomed in like this, which is a bit annoying. But with the control scheme that Ratchet Gladiator has, where you have the aiming reticle, you don't really need to rely too much on using the aim down sights function. Most of the combat's in close quarters, so you can avoid breaking the camera like this, and there's no way that I know to fix it other than just completing the challenge that you're doing, which is a bit unfortunate. But yeah, very fun weapon. Like I said, it has got slight ammo problems, but if you are quite efficient with it, or throw on something like the shock mod so it can affect more than one enemy at a time, it can make that go a lot further. Very cool. It's just sort of a series standard at this point, really. If you are struggling with the tougher targets, I'd recommend buying this, but if you're not and you're finding that your other weapons can take them down just fine, don't worry about buying this and save your bolts for something else. But let's move on to the next weapon. So the next weapon we unlock is the Arbiter, and we get this when we unlock the Avenger tournament after defeating Shell Shock, and it changes to the Silencer when you level it up to level 10, and the special effect you unlock when it gets to level 10 is that it fires out 3 rockets for the price of 1. It sort of started that trend of the Ratchet series, but I'd say it's much more useful in this game just because of the ranges that you're fighting against enemies. It's a very powerful weapon, and I actually forgot how powerful it is when I did the main walkthrough of the game because I didn't purchase it till much later, and definitely got shown and reminded how powerful it is. It does start off with quite a low ammo pool and a very low rate of fire, which can be a bit annoying, but you can see with the alpha mods it does come with some speed mods and some ammo mods, so that does solve that issue. And this is definitely another weapon similar to the anti-matter rifle or the fusion rifle that you're going to want to save against those tougher targets and use to take them down. Very fun weapon to use, very satisfying overall, and I would definitely recommend buying it. It also works very well with quite a few mods. The Napalm Mod can work quite well with it. I like using it with the Mini Bomb mod, but you can also stick on any of the other mods and sort of experiment, see what works best for you. It also has really good tracking on the rounds, so if you fire it against a dropship that's flying away or flying in, the middle rocket will always tend to track them really well. Got a surprisingly big blast radius on all the rockets as well. And you can land all 3 rockets on one target quite easily if it's a larger target.
And that Lombax is terminating with extreme prejudice. It's a good thing we're out of range, Juanita. We are out of range.
Yeah, very fun weapon. It's basic. It's just, you know, a basic rocket launcher, but does work really, really well. Not much else to say about this one, so I'm going to move over to the next weapon. So the next weapon that becomes available to us on planet Shar after doing the Avenger tournament is the Scorpion Flail, which then changes to the Leviathan Flail when you get it to level 10. And the special effect it unlocks at level 10 is that when you use the attacks, it sends out a shockwave along the ground that also does a pretty decent amount of damage. And this is probably my favourite weapon in the game, if not the majority, one of my favourite weapons out of the whole Ratchet & Clank series. It's really, really fun. I sort of ignored it at first because I thought it was a melee weapon. Don't want to use it, but it's actually very, very powerful. It's got a massive ammo pool for how much damage it does, and it has high impact, so it can knock down large targets and stun them. So it means it doesn't matter the fact that you have to get in close to use it, because you can just keep enemies stun locked. It also has a massive area of effect, and once you unlock that shockwave attack at level 10, it also means enemies at range, you can take those out without having to get too close. Works really well with the freeze mod. It can be quite fun using it with that, but I always prefer using the shock mod with it just because it improves that area of effect even more, and you can just blindly swing away and take out any enemies in your way. Like I said, it's probably one of my favourite weapons out of the entire Ratchet & Clank series, and I can understand why they didn't let it return, because it was very, very powerful. Always thought it's kind of funny the way Ratchet scrapes it on the ground as well. See, when you attack and after the mace hits, it sends that shockwave along the ground. If you jump as well, you get 2 attacks for the price of 1. It does one behind you and one in front, which is something that I only remembered when we did the main playthrough of the game, which was quite funny.
Get me one of those battle suits, Juanita.
But yeah, it doesn't matter if enemies are off the ground, you can still take them out because of the massive blast radius. Let's see if we can get some tougher enemies in here. And normally the ammo does last a real long time, but we're not getting many ammo drops, and I am just sort of spamming away. Did actually get shut off too well in that challenge. So I'm going to head over to another challenge and show it off a little bit more. Something I like to do is charge in with the charge boots and then use it. You can enter charge boots early. Did get to buy ammo. You can also fire up very quickly. A little bit better ammo pickups now.
One thing about Ratchet, you give him any lip and he'll feed you a lead sandwich. You better believe that, Juanita.
But yeah, basically just wipes out anything nearby where you use it.
Run, Ratchet, run!
Super fun weapon, allows you to play very aggressive. know this stalker turret can attack us from over there. Already how they changed the charge boots in this game, so you can only use them for a quick burst like that. I'm pretty sure the shockwave does the same amount of damage as the sort of main area of effect attack, which is pretty cool. But yeah, like I said, I'll definitely recommend buying this weapon. You do have to kind of get used to using it because of it being a melee weapon and being very different from the other weapons in the game. But it's very, very fun. And also, when you get to level 10, the special alpha mod it gives you is it can spawn health for you to pick up when you take out enemies, which is really cool. But yeah, I think I spent enough time on this weapon. Let's go over to the next one. The next weapon we unlock is the mini turret launcher, and this is very similar to other turret weapons in previous Ratchet and Clank games, and we get to purchase this when we do the Crusader tournament, which is against Reactor. Very fun boss battle, that one. But when you get to level 10, it changes to the Quasar turret launcher, and it's quite interesting. Unlike previous Ratchet and Clank games up until this point, rather than changing the machine gun into a homing missile launcher, it actually changes it into like a railgun turret, and it's much more improved over previous iterations of the weapon, which is really, really cool. Very similar to the Holoshield Launcher. It's quite a fun weapon to use and can give you a bit of backup. You know, things can definitely be quite chaotic in Ratchet Deadlocked. So if you're struggling a little bit and getting overwhelmed, I would recommend buying this. It can also be fun using it in co-op, because you can have your co-op, whoever you're playing with, and then just loads of turrets on the battlefield so the enemies don't stand a chance. It is, like I said, it is quite a fun weapon to use. And I'd recommend using this with the shock mod when it's fully upgraded, so those beams that it fires out can affect more than one enemy at a time. I'm pretty sure they do pierce enemies, but we'll find out in a second. It can also be quite good using the freeze mod with it as well. That seems to be quite an effective combination.
To 4 control nodes placed throughout the arena. If he can't stop their countdown in time, the whole audience gets a fresh serving of Lombax Pate.
So you can only have 5 turrets out at a time. And it can basically allow you to lock down an area when they're fully upgraded, because they do have a very long range. Can trivialise some sections of the game. Their sort of attack damage number isn't really reflective of how powerful they actually are.
And the rest is history. Ratchet's got this match on ice, ladies and gentlemen. The juice is cold, and the generic brand X gelatin is
definitely don't need to wait around for the AI to target enemies. I do find though, if they're attacking a single target, their fire rate is slower than if they destroy a target and move on to another one, which is a little bit strange. And they last for a lot longer than they did in previous games, as far as I'm aware. Making short work of these Leviathans here. Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say you have to buy these guys, because they are quite expensive. But like I said, if you're sort of struggling, I would definitely recommend buying them. Can help out a little bit in boss fights as well.
Time is halfway up. He's dragging his butt out there, Juanita. Looks like we might have another popper on our hands.
Oh, I hope so. This time I brought a shower cap.
It's just like being in the front row at Aqua World. You're guaranteed to get wet.
So you can see even with 1 or 2 turrets out, they're quite effective. You know, I didn't have to use any of other weapons, especially considering we have our Dread Zone robots backing us up as well. But then I do find that it is more effective just to put out 3 or 4. That way they can really take out all the targets for you. It definitely changes the weapon from being just more of a support weapon to a weapon you can just mainly use. That is something that I do like about Ratchet Deadlocked, is that all the weapons are viable. But yeah, on to the next weapon. So the final weapon that becomes available to us is the Harbinger, that then turns into the Supernova when you get it to level 10. And this basically this game's version of the Rhino, or sort of ultimate weapon. And it's quite cool because it does function quite different from the Rhinos that have appeared previously in the series. It sort of fires out these little missile pods that then call down an orbital laser. And when you get it to level 10, it basically changes the colour of the laser strike to being blue rather than orange. It essentially functions in exactly the same way. But it's a really, really cool weapon. It basically wipes out anything in the sort of immediate area of the laser strike. And most of the game takes place in close quarters, so it basically just takes out any enemies you can see. And yeah, it's really, really cool. One thing to note is that you can't get any ammo drops from enemies or the ammo crates in the game. You have to refill the ammo by going to the vendor. But like I said, it is a really, really cool weapon, and it's ridiculously powerful. It should take out pretty much any enemy. It will take out any enemy in one hit other than the exterminators. And yeah, let's test it out. And this becomes available to us when we do the Liberator tournament, where we face off against Ace Hardlight at the end of it. And generally speaking, you don't really tend to use a weapon like this, you know, just to clear out regular enemies. It's more of a weapon that you sort of save when you really need it, or just see a really big group of enemies in front of you. Want to take them out with one shot, especially considering that you can't pick up any ammo drops from enemies or crates. I do think though, when it gets to level 10, it basically has more lasers than when you're leveling up. It does have that cool sort of disintegration effect on the enemies. A lot of the time it doesn't work quite well. But it does only have 13 shots, so we have run out of ammo for it. That is, like I said, it is a very, very fun weapon, and sort of thing that you pull out when you really need it, and if you're a bit overwhelmed, which can be quite easy to get in that situation, especially on hard difficulties. It's quite nice being able to outrun this guy for a change. But yeah, that is the last weapon we unlock. I'm going to show it off against the final boss quickly as well, because it is this game's sort of ultimate weapon. So I'll see you guys in a sec.
Oh, looks like Fox has some tricks up his sleeve. This is gonna be one heck of a match.
Considering that we die if Team Darkstar loses, that's an understatement.
Understatement, an undergarment, the underworld of professional mustache twirling, whatever it is, it's hot! Folks, I'm gonna break character for just a second and say, watch out! If you don't, we all die! Next to... Oh no! This could mean disaster for Team Darkstar. I put 500 bolts on this match!
So as you can see, the maxed out Harbinger, or the Supernova, is very, very powerful against Gleeman Vox. And yeah, if it can take him down in 8 shots, it can take all the other exterminators down very, very easily as well. So it is useful if you're replaying the game and just want to take them out as soon as possible, so you get on to go through the levels again. But now I'm going to go over all the weapon mods as well and show all them off, and give a few thoughts to how effective they are. So the first Omega mod we have access to is the Acid mod, and it becomes available to you right at the start of the game after completing the Marauder tournament, which is the first challenge you have to do in the Dread Zone arena after your training. And it basically just adds a damage over time effect to any weapon you have it equipped on. You can see there it can be equipped to all the weapons in the game, and overall I think this mod isn't the most useful when your weapons are more upgraded, but making your way through the game, it can make it a bit easier to sort of take out the tougher targets before your weapons are upgraded enough to do enough damage to take them out with less trouble, or before they have impact mods in order to stun them and stagger them. So it can help that. It can also help your ammo go a little bit further by doing additional damage over time, other than just hitting them with your projectile or explosive or whatever it may be. You can see when your weapons are fully upgraded, it only takes a couple of shots to take out enemies anyway. So it doesn't make the most amount of difference. But the damage over time isn't too bad. If you have groups of slightly tougher enemies, you can make use of something like the Magma Cannon to infect them all, which can be quite useful. But obviously, with our weapon set fully upgraded, it doesn't make too much difference. One thing to point out is you might have noticed there the dropship couldn't be infected. Overall, it's quite a fun mod to mess around with, but this doesn't necessarily make the most amount of difference to the weapon's performance. But like I said, it can also, as you're levelling up your weapons, it can also make it slightly easier to take out those tougher targets by making your weapons use less ammo as well.
Ratchet, keep moving and jumping side to side to avoid incoming fire. The Dread Zone bots have heavy firepower, but they are not good at hitting moving targets.
Thank you for that information, Clank. Never would have made it without you. See if I can show off the damage over time against this turret and show off how long it lasts. So you can see it lasts quite a while and took out most of that turret's health, but after the effect's worn off, I don't know if it's a visual bug, but it never seems like you can reapply the status effect. But 9 times out of 10, whatever you've infected has been taken out by that point anyway, so it's not the end of the world. But overall, I wouldn't recommend buying this mod because there are better options available. But on to the next weapon mod. So the next Omega mod that becomes available to us when we reach Catacomb 4, which is the first planet you go to after you exit the Dread Zone station, is the Napalm mod. And you can see at the top of the screen there, it's only compatible with the 3 explosive weapons that we have in the game. But even with that, I would say it's a definite must buy, as it does a lot of damage over time, and similar to the Acid mod, it allows the ammo for these weapons to go a lot further, because as you're leveling them up, you are very limited for your ammo supply. Goes very, very well with the B6 Obliterator at the start of the game, and yeah, really, really usable throughout the entirety of the game because it does do a lot of damage. The Napalm can also stick to enemies and do a lot of damage that way as well.
Ratchet, you will have to capture all 3 nodes to extend.
So it's very good against sort of more sort of horde type enemies like this. Mess up your frame rate.
Here's a chilling thought. Team Darkstar is walking on top of a giant robot burial ground.
You'll see in a minute when we take on that turret that it's also good against tough targets as well.
Don't forget to order that red zone home game.
Something to point out is that if you have an explosive weapon that has multiple projectiles, they will all spawn napalm. This missile spawn napalm, that missile spawn napalm, and this missile spawn napalm.
Ratchet, according to Dread Zone show requirements, enemies appear red on the radar. Allies appear green.
Also doesn't do any damage to you.
Objectives appear blue.
Should be able to shaft damage over time here as well.
One of your combat bots is incapacitated.
Didn't get lucky.
Use the revive command to bring
But
him
yeah, if
back
it
to
sticks to any enemies, it does a lot of damage. And some of the bigger enemies, you can sort of stick multiple sort of lots on it, and they sort of instantly die. But on to the next weapon mod. So the next weapon mod is the Shock mod, and this becomes available to you on the planet Sarathos, which is the planet after Catacomb 4, where we get the Napalm mod. And as you can see at the top of the screen, it can be equipped on every single weapon. And I'd say this mod, more than any other mod, is a must buy. It's very, very powerful. It allows you to make the ammo of your weapons go much further, with the fact that they can affect a much greater amount of enemies. For getting rid of little swarms of these sort of ankle biter enemies, or the swarmers enemies, you know, the single wrench hit kill enemies, you can fire one shot at them and get rid of a whole group, or at least most of them. And for certain weapons that potentially have a little bit limited range, like the Leviathan Flail, until it's fully upgraded, it can make weapons like that much more usable. Again, with the explosive weapons, it just allows them to affect enemies that are far outside the explosive radius as well.
Ratchet, there is a combat
as you can
arena
see,
up ahead. That is your first objective. Be careful.
Electrifies
Outside is
enemies,
heavily guarded.
does a little bit of bonus damage.
Bad feeling about this.
Also allows your weapons to affect a much larger area.
Everybody's pee-pee, because we're not breaking for commercial anytime soon.
You can order a bot to hack into one of those orb
So it's useful for the bonus damage, but it's also really useful for improving your sort of crowd control with your weapons. What's your weapon there? Instantly taking out that Leviathan.
Darkstar is in rare form tonight. Well, they got the door open. Now, let's find out what's waiting for them on the other side.
Even if you don't like using it on your other weapons, I'd say it's just useful for equipping to the Dual Vipers or the Dual Raptors, just because you can do that. Even before the bullets bounce when you fully upgrade it. It just allows you to take out groups of enemies without any trouble.
Oh, goody, the swamp is up next.
And you might have noticed that an electrical arc went between the enemy that the turret shot and the other enemy. So it doesn't do the most amount of damage, but if you have a weapon that's fast firing, like the dual Vipers or dual Raptors, stack on the damage and take out a group of enemies while just focusing on one or two, and it just makes your ammo go much further. And it also looks really cool as well, so like I said, a definite must buy. But on to the next weapon mod. So the next weapon mod is the Freeze mod, and this becomes available to you on planet Kronos, which is the planet after planet Serathos. And it's quite a cool mod. It can be equipped on every weapon in the game, and it basically does what you'd expect in that it sort of slows enemies down and then eventually freezes them, and then at that point they take very little damage to sort of be shattered and taken out, which is really cool. And it can be very useful for some of the tougher enemies. Looks really cool as well, the way the ice sort of, spreads out like that after you shatter them. But yeah, like I said, if you have like tougher enemies, you can sort of take them out off the field or mobilise them, so you don't need to worry about them. I'd say it works very well with the Magma Cannon, especially when it gets upgraded to the Vulcan Cannon, and just basically hits everything on screen.
This guy is gonna sell a lot of commercial time, Juanita. Let's just pray we don't have any more wardrobe malfunctions.
You can also use it with explosive weapons, which is very cool, and something that you can do which is quite cool, and I think there's a couple of skill points attached to it, is by freezing enemies and then taking them out with an explosive weapon that has the Napalm Mod. It takes advantage of like the bonus damage they take while they're frozen.
Fusion rifles are a good long-range weapon which can be zoomed in to accurately shoot enemies from far away. Try using the fusion rifle to destroy those enemies.
Thank you, Clank. Doesn't really make much difference to the fusion rifle. While you're leveling up the mini turret launcher, I find it's quite good for that weapon. Shock mod's also very good for the turret launcher as well.
Anything for the commander, sir.
Jump onto the grind rail to traverse this gap.
And again, it doesn't make much difference to the Harbinger. But it looks pretty cool. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a must-buy mod, but it is very cool. And I mainly buy it to use with the Magma Cannon, just because it seems to be a really good, effective combination of taking enemies out and clearing out large groups. On to the next weapon mod. So the next weapon mod that becomes available to you on planet Shah is the mini bomb mod, and it basically functions as you'd expect, and you can equip it to any of your explosive weapons. Kind of makes them handle a little bit like the bouncer from previous games, which is really cool. But yeah, basically you fire out your explosive weapon, and then when it detonates, it sends out little mini cluster bombs, which is really cool. And with the mine launcher, it's quite cool with the effect of the fully upgraded mine launcher, where the mines you fire out then spawn other mines that all have mini bombs. It basically allows you to sort of carpet bomb an area and keep it locked down. overall as well, I would say it's more of a must-buy mod for your explosive weapons. Works really well with the mine launcher, like I said, but also works really well with the Arbiter. I do prefer using something like the Napalm Mod, V6 Obliterator. But it does help your weapons affect a larger area and also make them more efficient by giving them basically 2 damage ticks. Or sort of 2 phases of damage, which is really cool. Like I said, I'd recommend, even though it can only be used for your explosive weapons, I would say it's a must-buy mod. On to the next one. So the next weapon mod that becomes available to you is the Morph Mod on planet Auxon, and it is equipable to every weapon of the game, and it basically again functions like you'd expect in that, similar to like the morphing weapons of previous Ratchet and Clank games. It gives your weapons that effect, and the animals then distract or seek out enemies and explode, dealing damage. So it's a little bit like the mini bomb mod that we just looked at, but works slightly different.
Permission to speak freely? This place stinks.
Ratchet, you have a choice of 2 different paths.
Ducks
I'm
here.
afraid each one is equally dangerous.
Similar to Ratchet and Clank 3. Yeah, they lay eggs. Sheep that then run towards any enemies and again explode.
Ooh, they chose the path on the right. They're gonna regret that.
And you might have seen there briefly, you also have chickens that seek out enemies. A little bit difficult to show off. Sometimes it also doesn't always take effect. A lot of the time as well, the enemies focus on your bots rather than trying to attack the farm animals. Well, I guess it's something else that can distract the enemies and help avoid you taking damage. See how it works on the Harbinger. Still transmogs them. Chicken stood there. It is quite funny and can serve a purpose. It's quite a usable mod. Oh, I wouldn't consider it a must buy.
He must be destroyed.
There's better options that do basically the same thing. This chicken seems to be quite idle. That little piggy didn't seem to be able to take out the other quite basic enemy.
They've only got 1 force field left.
But similar to the freeze mod, it'll work well for your Magma Cannon when it gets upgraded to the Vulcan Cannon. It should be able to affect a lot of enemies at once. Like I said, I wouldn't consider it a must-buy mod, but it is quite fun to use. So on to the next mod. So the next mod that becomes available to you is the Brainwash mod, and you can get this at the Valix belt. And it's quite a cool mod. It works very similarly to the Infector in Ratchet and Clank 3, which is quite a cool weapon. Yeah, it's a bit of a difficult one to show off, this one, because a lot of enemies will get destroyed before the brainwashing can take effect. But you see, the enemies will glow yellow, and will then begin attacking each other. Doesn't work on vehicles though. But generally speaking, I wouldn't say it's actually that useful. You can see 9 times out of 10 you take out enemies, or your bots will take out enemies before the brainwashing effect really has time to be used. They don't do the most amount of damage to each other either. Can help as a bit of crowd control, you know, if you're a bit overwhelmed. But then I think you're better off just using something like the shock mod or an explosive weapon to worry about clearing the field. You can destroy even the executioners before you get any use out of the brainwashing effect. Does look quite cool. Yeah, it's not really a mod that I bother using, just because other than sort of taking fire away from you, I don't actually find it's that useful. Might be more useful if you're playing on high difficulties. And again, as you can see, it's always good with the Magma Cannon or Vulcan Cannon. The only real use that I do normally see out of it is, you know, if you get like a tougher enemy, they can clear out other groups for you, but then you are relying on the AI rather than just being able to take them out sort of normally. But that is the only sort of real way I do actually find it really useful.
Let's hit the sky, sir.
Pretty much all our other weapons will just destroy the enemies before really getting to infect them. I don't know if the shield has any sort of area effect on it or anything, but then it'll just electrocute them before the brainwashing effect has time to take place.
I'm thinking that node opens the hangar doors. That's great.
So you can find some use out of it, but overall I wouldn't really recommend the Brainwash mod, just because you're much better off just taking out enemies, and if they like charge towards other enemies and like blow up or something like that, then I'd probably recommend it, just because it'd be quite cool and fun to use, and probably work very well in certain situations. But other than that, I wouldn't worry about buying it unless you've just got the bolt spare, because it is quite expensive. But on to the next mod. So the last weapon mod we unlock is the Time Bomb mod, and you get this when you do the Vindicator tournament, which is the one that you fight against Eviscerator, and it's only usable for all the explosive weapons, but I only really like using it for the mine launcher. And basically what it does is it turns the explosive into a sticky bomb that then does damage over time when it attaches to an enemy, and then it explodes on a delay, and it sends out like electricity to other nearby enemies. It does greatly increase the damage of your weapons, and it also increases the effective area of the weapons. It is a little bit epilepsy inducing sometimes. You can see it sticking to enemy there, and yeah, sometimes you get that like flash like that. It's very good on the mine launcher. You can also use it on the Arbiter, but it does only work on sort of direct hits, which is why I like the using it for the mine launcher, because it's sort of guaranteed to stick to enemies. See, it does increase the damage and also the blast radius, but I think on the mine launcher, on the Arbiter and the B6 Obliterator, I do prefer having that like instantaneous effect. See, it does damage over time. Yeah, I don't, on the Arbiter and the B6 Obliterator, I don't like the way it sort of makes you wait for the explosion. You have a group of enemies come around the corner and you want the B6 Obliterator, or a tough enemy spawns in that you want to get rid of. You want to do it as soon as possible, sort of thing. But on the mine launcher, you sort of have to wait for the rounds to home in anyway, so you're not actually waiting much longer. It can be quite useful for the Arbiter, more so when you're levelling it up than when it's at level 10, because you can hit an enemy, the damage over time when it's stuck to them takes them out. They then land in another group of enemies that have just spawned in, or are running sort of across their path, and then it detonates. So potentially you can make your ammo go a little bit further using it. Overall, I wouldn't say it's a must-buy mod, but I do very much like it for the mine launcher. Very, very cool, cool effect as well. But it's more of a personal preference. I think all the other mods that I've shown off and that are in the game will serve you just as well as the Time-Bomb launcher. Very cool idea though. But that is all the weapons fully upgraded and all the weapon mods shown off that are in the game. Nice sense of variety with a lot of them, and they're all really, really satisfying to use, just with the impact and a lot of the sound design as well. Definitely all the weapons can be used all throughout, right through the game. Something that they balance really, really well, and they definitely feel very powerful when they're fully upgraded. But if you are finding things a bit easier, then you can obviously increase the difficulty. But thank you very much for watching. Hope you guys have enjoyed this episode. And if you haven't watched the Ratchet series, I recommend going back and doing that if you haven't seen it, because it's very fun be playing through this game. But thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed this showcase and the series, make sure to like and subscribe for more, and then that way you won't miss out on the rest of the Ratchet series when we get around to it. But thanks again for watching. Always appreciate having you guys here, and I'll catch you guys in the next series.